welcome to this A1 beginner lesson with me, Kate. Today we're looking at the correct use of a, some or any. We're also going to learn some new vocabulary and do some reading comprehension. So let's get started. I want to introduce you to Gloria. Gloria Sega is a teacher from Kingston, Jamaica. There is a population of 700,000. Next, I want to introduce you to Nikita. Nikita Aziz is a student at the University of Kingston near London, Kingston upon Thames, England. Population 150,000. And finally, this is Gavin. Gavin Watt is a taxi driver from Kingston, New Zealand. Kingston, New Zealand, population 2,000. Right, so next, some new vocabulary. The sea, the sea, the sea. A lake, a lake, a lake. A river, a river, a river. Okay, so which Kingston is a city? Which Kingston is a city? Is it Kingston, Jamaica, Kingston upon Thames, England, or Kingston, New Zealand? That's right, it's Kingston, Jamaica, and we can see it has a population of 700,000. Which Kingston is a large town? Which Kingston is a large town? That's right, it's Kingston upon Thames in England. It has a population of 150,000. Which Kingston is a small town? Which Kingston is a small town? That's right, it's Kingston, New Zealand, which has a population of just 2,000. Which Kingston is near a river? Which Kingston is near a river? That's Kingston upon Thames in England. We can see the river here. It's also the River Thames, hence the name Kingston upon Thames. Which Kingston is near the sea? Which Kingston is near the sea? We can see here Kingston, Jamaica is near the sea. And which Kingston is near a lake? Which Kingston is near a lake? We can see Kingston, New Zealand is near a lake. Fantastic, well done. Some more vocabulary for you. Music, music, music. Busy, busy, busy. Mountains, mountains, mountains. Interesting, interesting, interesting. Quiet, quiet, quiet. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Beach, beach, beach. Famous, famous, famous. Okay, let's find out a little bit more about our individuals. So this is Gloria. Remember, Gloria Sega is a teacher from Kingston, Jamaica, and this is what she says. Kingston isn't a beautiful city, but it's very busy and interesting. There are lots of people, lots of cafes, and there's reggae music everywhere. There are some beautiful places near Kingston, the Blue Mountains, and some beautiful beaches. It's a fantastic place. That's Gloria. Let's find out a bit more about Nikita. Remember, Nikita is a student at the University of Kingston near London. So Kingston's a very busy town. There are lots of shops and cars, and there's a university with students from all over the world. But it's a nice place. There's an old market square, and we're near the River Thames. There are some beautiful parks too. And finally, Gavin. Remember, Gavin is a taxi driver from Kingston, New Zealand, and this is what he says. Kingston's a small town near Lake Wakatipu in the mountains. It's in a really beautiful place, but it's very quiet. There's only one school, one bank, and one small supermarket. There's a famous old train here too, and some restaurants for the tourists. Brilliant, well done. So what I want to look at is the use of a, some, or any in those sentences. And we're going to do that by looking at some examples. So here we have some singular and plural phrases. And first we have some statements. Statements are positive phrases, positive. So just a bit of a recap. What's the verb that's missing here? What's missing? That's right, it's a singular positive statement, so it should be there's a famous train. There's a famous train. And here, this is a positive statement, but it's plural. So what's the verb that's missing? Again, it's to be. What's the form? Are. There are some parks. There are some parks. And notice that in the singular, we're using a, and in the plural, we're using some, not forgetting the S on the end of the noun. So there are some parks. Let's have a look at these sentences put into their question form. So this one, there's a famous train. How can I ask that as a question? Is there a famous train? Is there a famous train? Again, I'm using the singular form of the verb to be, and I'm using a. Is there a famous train? What about this phrase? There are some parks. How can I ask that as a question? Are there any parks? Are there any parks? So again, I'm using the plural form of the verb to be, are, but I'm not using some. In a question, I use any. And then my noun finishes with an S. Are there any parks? Let's have a look now at the negative statements. So I've got there's a famous train. How can I make that negative? I change the verb to be. So instead of is, it becomes isn't. There isn't a famous train. There isn't a famous train. And how about with the plural phrase? I change the verb to be to its negative. There aren't any parks. There aren't any parks. Notice again in the negative, with the singular phrase, I use a, and with the plural, I use any. So in summary, for singular sentences, I use a. I use a in the positive statement, a in the question form, a in the negative. For plural phrases, I use some in the positive, any for the question, any for the negative. Let's try that again. So here are our positive statements, the singular. What's missing? What should this be? There's a university. There's a university. What about the plural phrase? There are some mountains. There are some mountains. Okay, let's change these to their question form. What's going to be here? Is there a university? Is there a university? And how about this plural phrase? Are there any mountains? Are there any mountains? Okay, now can we change this positive phrase to a negative? There isn't a university. There isn't a university. How about the plural? There aren't any mountains. There aren't any mountains. So once again, singular phrases, whether it be a statement, a question, or a negative, all use a. When our plural phrases, we use some for a positive statement, we use any for a question, and any for a negative. Let's try one more. The statements. There's a river. There's a river. How about this plural statement? There are some beaches. There are some beaches. Can I change these statements into questions? What would go here? Is there a river? Is there a river? And over here for our plural, are there any beaches? Are there any beaches? Right, let's change them into the negative. There isn't a river. There isn't a river. And the plural. There aren't any beaches. There aren't any beaches. So remember the summary one more time. Singular phrases, positive, question, and negative, all use a. Plural phrases, a positive statement uses some, questions and negatives use any. Now it's your turn. Let me just make myself a bit smaller. Can we decide what word is missing in each of these sentences? Is the word some, any, or a? Okay, so let's look at A. There's beautiful park near my house. There's a beautiful park near my house. It's positive and it's singular, importantly. What about B? There are good restaurants in the market square. There are good restaurants in the market square. There are some good restaurants in the market square. It's plural and positive, so we use some. What about this one? Are there small children in your family? Are there small children in your family? Are there any small children in your family? This is plural and a question, so we use any. What about D? Is there cinema in this town? Is there cinema in this town? Is there a cinema in this town? It's singular, so we use a. What about E? There aren't famous people in my family. There aren't famous people in my family. There aren't any famous people in my family. This is a plural phrase and it's negative, so we use any. F. There isn't car park at the university. There isn't car park at the university. There isn't a car park at the university. It's a singular phrase, so we use a. G. There's bus stop in Hope Street. There's bus stop in Hope Street. Again, it's singular. There's a bus stop in Hope Street. And H. There are American students at my university. There are American students at my university. There are some American students at my university. It's plural and it's positive, so we use some. Well done. Okay, now you will be able to put some questions together, okay? Remember, we either use is there or are there, and we use any for plural or a for singular. For example, are there any good restaurants near your house? Are there any good restaurants near your house? So here I've got my plural verb to be. I've got any because it's a plural and it's a question. I've got my plural noun restaurants. Are there any good restaurants near your house? Is there a lake near your town? Is there a lake near your town? So I've got my singular form of the verb to be, got my singular noun, and I use a because it's a singular phrase. Is there a lake near your town? Are there any parks near your house? Are there any parks near your house? So again, I've got my plural form of the verb to be. And because it's a plural question, I'm using any and the plural form of the noun parks. So you might want to pause here, have a look at these mind maps and put some questions together yourself. It's a good idea to practice. Well done. Okay, think of your town. Can you write 5 sentences about these things? Think of your town. Think of positive sentences, things that there are in your town. Think of negative sentences, okay? And think of these objects and places. Here are mine. There are some mountains near my town. There are some mountains near my town. There isn't a university in my town. There isn't a university in my town. There is a river near my town. There is a river near my town. There isn't a beach near my town. There isn't a beach near my town. There are some beautiful parks in my town. There are some beautiful parks in my town. So maybe pause again and see, can you write 5 sentences about these things? Well done. Now that you have your 5 sentences, can you put them together to write a paragraph? Here's mine. There is a river and some beautiful parks in Aubenay. There are some mountains near my town, but there isn't a university or a beach. Well done. So maybe pause. Can you put your sentences together and create a paragraph about your town? So if you have done that, I'd love to know about it. Write your paragraph about your town in the comments below. Tell me about your town. Please don't forget to subscribe. And coming up in my next lesson, lesson 17, we'll be doing some vocabulary for the family. Okay, thanks very much for watching. Take care. Bye-bye.